Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining the ACA Small Business Bootcamp. We will get started here momentarily. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining the ACA Small Business Bootcamp and Resource Collective for this Thursday, July 29th. I'm Robert Theobald, the Small Business Ombudsman and Vice President of Small Business Services here at the Arizona Commerce Authority. We're excited to have you with us today. We've got a great session planned. As always, I like to start with recognizing all of our community partners. We have a ton of community partners that help us with these boot camps. They share their time, their effort, their expertise to bring quality content to small business owners throughout the state. Those not familiar with the Small Business Bootcamp, it is designed to help support small businesses return from the COVID crisis stronger than ever. It is a statewide initiative supported by our community partners, and those community partners do come from all over the state. And it is a resource collective and content library. For today's sessions, you went to our website for the boot camp to register. And on that page, right underneath today's sessions, you can see the upcoming sessions. And we've got a few weeks of schedule out there. We do them every Tuesday and Thursday, 9 a.m. And we are working on our September schedule. We've got great sessions scheduled for the month of August and into September. So we're real excited about those. But with that comes the Resource Collective. On the website, you'll find the link to this page. The Resource Collective are additional tools and guides and resources brought to us by our community partners. And there's information there to help various different industries, anywhere from cosmetologists to construction, to manufacturing, to retail, restaurants, and more. So it's a great place to check out some of those tools and resources. I also mentioned that it is a content library. So with each of these webinars on the boot camp, we record each session and we post them to our website. You can see there on the website, on the little screen on our slide, it says archived. And on the archive section, you can go by week and find the different sessions that we've done. You can go back and watch them at any time and download the slide presentations that were utilized. This information there's no cost to do it. It's available to everyone. So we encourage you to go on there and watch it. But what this has created over the past 63 plus weeks of doing boot camps is we have well over 140 recorded boot camp presentations, creating a massive content library of expert content. And so it is a great tool and resource for all those looking to learn more about running a small business. Out there, we have anywhere from the financial reporting, financial analysis, financial documents, to marketing and SEO and branding. We have restaurant specifics and manufacturing specific presentations. We've got an HR series coming up. We've got a lot of great information on there at your resource. With that, I also want to touch on a couple of these states' COVID-19 pages. ArizonaTogether.org is a state's information and resource page for everything COVID-19. And then the Arizona Commerce Authority put together azcommerce.com/COVID-19. And that's our business resources website for COVID-19. And you can access different things on guidance for your business, as well as financial resources and other materials to help any size business. We also offer a number of programs to help support small business during any period of time. We have our small business services, our workforce division, and our manufacturing extension partnership, Arizona MEP. Additionally, we have our small business checklist. This is for those looking to start a business or expand their business into a new product line. And it has information on the commonly requested licensing, registration, and compliance requirements at the local, state, and federal level. You can also find other information on procurement and marketing opportunities and business planning and development. It is a great tool. It's also a no-cost tool and resource for everyone out there to use. So to run through some quick updates, I have on here PPP loan forgiveness. I'm going to touch on that a little bit more with our presentation today, so I won't get into it right now, but we're going to post some links in the chat to help with all these things. Same with employee retention credit. Our presenter today is going to touch on that, along with our EIDL. But another thing I want to mention is for all those tech companies out there, those innovative tech startups, we have our Arizona Innovation Challenge application window is now open. We'll post the link for that. They are doing some information sessions, and on that website that you'll get the link for in the chat box, we'll give you some information on those information sessions. So with that, I want to jump to our upcoming sessions. So next week, we have our food math profit strategies for your restaurant. Even though this is targeting restaurants, I highly encourage everyone to attend, because even if you offer service or other retail products, understanding these items may also, they do translate to other business as well, not just food, but it is targeted at the restaurant industry. But I encourage everybody to attend. And then on Thursday, we're going to start a small business HR compliance series, or HR series, with some small business HR compliance on Thursday. We're doing a 3-week series on Thursdays in August, brought to us by the Society of Human Resource Management Professionals in our state. The Arizona chapter has been gracious enough to provide their time and expertise, so we're excited about that. And then we've got the Yavapai College SBDC on Tuesday, August 10th, is going to talk about customer service as a differentiating factor in your business. Real excited for that session as well. And then again, on the following Thursday, August 12th, is the second part of our HR series. So we've got some great sessions coming up. We hope to see you on those. With that, we're going to turn our time to today's sessions. So we were supposed to have Jim Pipper from the SBA. Unfortunately, last minute challenges arose, and he is not going to be able to be with us, but I will be covering some of the information that he was going to share. And then we will have Lisa Novak, who's the Senior Stakeholder Liaison with Communication Liaison Outreach Division of the IRS. And she's going to share with us some of the tax resources that are available to help small businesses. So with that, I'm going to jump in and cover some of the material that James asked me to cover for him. So first is PPP loan forgiveness. The SBA is in the process of opening a new forgiveness portal. Some information that went out just this morning is they're looking by about August 4th to have that active. It is a portal where you as a business owner will be able to go into that directly to apply for forgiveness. A couple caveats is your lender needs to opt in. So your lender needs to want to participate in that portal, and then you'll be able to do your forgiveness through that portal. I know that's important because I've talked to a number of small businesses that have used some of the different online lenders for their PPP loan, and some of those lenders hadn't opened forgiveness portals yet on their sites. So this is going to be a key thing. And then this portal is designed for forgiveness of the loans of less than $150,000. So it should make it easy. Most of the unforgiven loans that I think it's about 93% of the loans that are still outstanding are loans of under $150,000, which were for the small businesses. So this is a very needed thing to help businesses understand that you do have to apply for forgiveness, and then to make it easy for them. We will post in the chat the link to the SBA's website on PPP loan forgiveness. So you can go in and follow that to get the details when it comes out. We should see a lot more details over the next week to week and a half on this program. Jim also wanted me to share some information on the EIDL Targeted Advance. So the Targeted Advance can provide funds of up to $10,000 for specific applicants for the economic injury disaster loan. And this Targeted Advance some of the qualifications are that you are in a low income community, you can demonstrate more than a 30% reduction in revenue, and that you have fewer than 300 employees. So again, the information on this, the SBA's website, we will post that in the chat so you can link directly to it for even more details. But again, if you fall into have these qualifications, you may be able to receive additional EIDL advance funds up to $10,000. And there's also the EIDL supplemental targeted advance, and it provides a payment of up to $5,000 that does not have to be repaid. And the qualifications for that are that you are located in a low income community, that you can provide more than a 50% economic loss, and that you have fewer than 10 employees. Now, one thing you'll notice that was on both this slide and the previous slide is that you're located in a low income community. On the EIDL Target Advance website, they do have a link to a map to help you identify if you do fall into that community. So it makes it simple there, utilizing that map. And then the final slide I want to touch on about the targeted advance is if you need to check the status of your EIDL application, you just need to log into your application portal on the SBA website. If you've already applied for an EIDL or you're seeking reevaluation of a targeted advance or supplemental advance, and when you say seeking reevaluation is you may have been denied and you want them to review your application, you want to reach out to this email address at targetedadvancereevaluation@sba.gov. And then if you have general questions that you can't find on the FAQ or on the website about your EIDL, either your loan or the advance, or questions about it, you can reach the SBA Disaster Customer Service Center at the phone number listed there, or by email at targetedadvance@sba.gov. I will say that on the website, the FAQ page that they have set up has a lot of great information. So you may want to check that first. It may answer your questions that you have, and we'll try to answer some at the end of today's sessions if we can. But with that, I want to go ahead and turn the time over to Lisa. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and let Lisa share hers so we can get started with the tax credit piece.
Okay, thank you, Robert. Let me see if I can get this shared here. Okay, good morning, everyone. As Robert said, my name is Lisa Novak. I am with the Internal Revenue Service Communications Office. I'm a senior stakeholder liaison. I would like to thank everyone for joining us today to hopefully learn a little bit about some of the small business tax credits that you might be able to take advantage of if you have employees. You know, it's really been quite a year for all of us, but as you can imagine, it's been quite busy for us at IRS with all the tax law changes as a result of COVID-19. So we are still, even to this day, going through a lot of the changes to provide guidance in some of these areas, including some of the topics that I'm going to discuss today. So I do encourage you to, if you haven't already visited irs.gov, I encourage you to keep an eye on that, take a look at it, even, you know, consult that for additional information on other topics. But I encourage you to look at it for further information and to answer any other questions that you might have as well, even as a result of today's presentation. So today I'm going to touch on the employee retention credit, the credit for paid sick and family leave, and then also the work opportunity tax credit. And then I'm going to mention a little bit about the advanced child tax credit. And for some reason, I cannot get my slide to advance. Let's see. There we go. Okay. So as I said, we're going to start talking about the employee retention credit. This was originally enacted as part of the CARES Act that was signed into law in March of 2020, but then it was subsequently amended a couple of different times. So there's a couple things to be aware of, but one particular fact that I think is kind of interesting is that the credit can potentially amount to about $33,000 per employee over a 2-year period. But you got to know the rules. and the changes that were made to the legislation. So that's kind of what we're going to talk a little bit about today too, and do a comparison between those. So this credit was actually really designed to encourage and to help employers keep their employees on the payroll, during the times of the pandemic. So the credit is actually available to eligible employers, regardless of their size, and it also includes tax exempt organizations. And this would be for employers that pay what they call qualified wages to some or all of their employees after March 12th of 2020 and before January 1st of 2022. So it is still ongoing right now. And as I said, there's differing requirements depending on the tax quarter in which those wages were paid. Okay, so as I mentioned, there's the 3 different pieces of legislation that guide the timing and the amounts, among some of the other things. So this slide shows what those pieces of legislation are. So the credit under the original CARES Act, this was where eligible employers could receive a fully refundable tax credit against their Social Security taxes, and it was equal to 50% of qualified wages that were paid to their employees during a period of time between March 12th of 2020 and through December 31st of 2020. So this credit's available for those employers whose operations were maybe fully or partially suspended due to COVID-19 related shutdown, or for those folks whose gross receipts declined by more than 50% when compared to the same quarter in the prior year. So for employers with more than 100 employees, the credit was for wages paid to employees who were not providing services because of COVID-19. But for employers with 100 or fewer employees, that credit was for qualified wages regardless of whether the employees were providing services. So, in both of those situations, you could qualify if you had 100 or fewer employees. Now, for wages paid after March 12th of 2020 and before January 1st of 2021, the maximum amount of qualified wages taken into account with respect to each employee for all calendar quarters is $10,000. So because the maximum credit is 50% of that $10,000 in qualified wages, the maximum credit for an eligible employee for a qualified wage is $5,000. Now, for wages paid after December 31st of 2020 and before July 1st of 2021, the Relief Act actually made some changes, making the credit available for both the first and the second quarter of 2021. It also increased the maximum credit amount that can be claimed per employee to 70% of that $10,000. So instead of limiting it to $5,000, it was now limited to $7,000 of qualified wages, and then expanded the categories of eligible employers. The credit is actually taken against the employer's share of Medicare tax for quarter 3 and quarter 4. And that came under the American Rescue Plan. That was signed in March of 2021. And again, so for quarter 3 and quarter 4, the employers can claim a refundable tax credit equal to 70% of qualified wages that they pay to employees from July 1st of 2021 through December 31st of 2021. So if you look at, I gave you that figure of $33,000 per employee over a 2-year period. So if you look at the 2020 amount that was allotted, that would be $5,000. And then under the Relief Act, they allowed up to $7,000 for Q1 and Q2 of 2021. And then under the American Rescue Plan, they allowed up to $7,000 for Q3 and 4. So that's where that $33,000 per employee came from. Now, I also mentioned that there was some change to eligible employers. The American Rescue Plan also introduced a new category of eligible employer, which was called a recovery startup business. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. Okay. All right, so how much can you claim per employee? Like I said, it does depend on which quarter. So this slide kind of breaks it down a little bit for you. So under the CARES Act, the employee retention credit is a fully refundable tax credit for employers equal to 50% of qualified wages that they pay their employees. So again, this is from March 12th of 2020 through December 31st of 2020. The maximum amount taken into consideration is $10,000, which means the maximum credit is $5,000. Now under the Relief Act, it increased the limit on per employee qualified wages from $10,000 for the year to $10,000 for each quarter. So that basically means when they raised the allowable amount to 70% of that $10,000, that made the maximum credit amount for the first and second quarter of 2021 is $7,000 per employee per quarter. Then under the American Rescue Plan, the amounts remain 70% of $10,000 for each quarter with a maximum of $7,000 per employee. So this was for the third and fourth quarters. And then it also allowed an employee retention credit for an employer that is a recovery startup business. All right, so we've kind of gone over a little bit of the eligibility, but who would be eligible to claim the credit? It would be available to eligible employers regardless of their size, including tax-exempt organizations. Now, there are a couple exceptions. So self-employed individuals and household employers are not eligible for this credit. In general, some of the governmental employers aren't eligible. However, certain governmental employers are eligible in 2021. So as I mentioned, well, let's focus a little bit more on the 2021 eligibility. So eligible employers have to fall into one of two categories. They must have had their operations fully or partially suspended during any calendar quarter in 2020 due to orders from an appropriate governmental authority, or they would have experienced a significant decline in gross receipts during the calendar quarter. So you want to compare it to the prior year quarter for 2019 if you're looking at 2020. So for 2021, a decline in gross receipts would be defined as a quarter where the gross receipts of that calendar quarter are less than 80% of the gross receipts in the same calendar quarter in 2019. So in this case, for 2021, you're not going to look back to 2020, which was, an unusual year. You're going to still look back to 2019 to make that determination. Now, once that employer's gross receipts increase above that 80% of that comparable quarter, then they're no longer going to qualify after the end of that quarter. So they would still qualify for that quarter, but not the following quarter. So as I mentioned, one thing that was unique to the American Rescue Plan was the third category of an eligible employer, which is a recovery startup business. And this is generally one that began after February 15th of 2020, and they have an average gross receipts of less than $1 million. Now, there will be additional employers eligible under this new category, but they can only claim a total of $50,000 in employee retention credit for the third quarter in 2021 and $50,000 for the fourth quarter of 2021. So those limitations are a little different than in general. Okay. So in 2021, there's actually 3 categories for which qualifying wages are based. So for the businesses other than severely financially distressed employers, qualifying wages are based on the average number of a business's full-time employees in 2019. So for 2021, that threshold of a small employer was actually raised to 500 full-time employees as opposed to 100. So effective January 1st of 2021, the definition of qualified wages was changed to provide employers with 500 employees or fewer. If that employer had 500 or fewer employees on average in 2019, the credit would be based on wages paid to all employees during a period that operations were fully or partially suspended, or during the quarter that the employer had a decline in gross receipts, regardless of if they provided services or not. So even if the employees worked full-time and were paid for full-time work, the employer would still receive the credit. Now, if employing more than 500 people, you can only claim the credit for those employees paid who are not providing services. So that changed between the 2 years also. They also, under the American Rescue Plan, added a special rule for those employers who are considered severely financially distressed. And this would be someone whose gross receipts for the calendar quarter are actually less than 10% of its gross receipts from the same calendar quarter in 2019. So, although the general rule is that large employers, more than 500 average full-time employees in 2019, the rule is that they can claim the credit only for wages that are paid to an employee not providing services. But severely financially distressed employers can take all of those wages paid into consideration. So if you fall under that definition and you have more than 500 full-time employees, even you could take the credit for those folks that were still working for you and getting paid for full-time work as well. Okay, so how does an employer claim the credit? In order to claim that new employee retention credit, employers will be reporting their total qualified wages on their employment tax returns. And so that's generally the Form 941 for most employers. So the credit is actually taken against the employer's share of Social Security tax for wages paid between March 13th of 2020 and June 30th of 2021, and then against employer's share of Medicare tax for wages paid between 7/1 of 2021 and 12/31 of 2021. Now, in anticipation of claiming that credit, the employer can actually retain a corresponding amount of the employment tax that otherwise would have been deposited. And so that includes things like the federal income tax withholding, the employee's share of Social Security and Medicare taxes, and the employer's share of Social Security and Medicare taxes for all employees up to the amount of the credit without penalty. So this will give you kind of that cash fluidity to be able to make those payments to those employees. Now, for small employers only, they can request an advance payment of the credit using a Form 7200, which is entitled Advance Payment of Employer Credits Due to COVID-19. In 2021, these advances are not available for large employers, so keep that in mind. Okay, so an eligible employer's ability to claim the employee retention credit can be impacted by other credit and relief provisions. So on here, you can see that they made some interaction with the PPP loans, but retroactive back to March 27th of 2020, the new law now allows employers who received a PPP loan to claim the employee retention credit for qualified wages that are not treated as payroll costs in obtaining forgiveness of the PPP loan. So qualified wages not paid from a forgiven PPP loan still might qualify for the employee retention credit. All right, this slide shows some of the other credits that might impact claiming the employee retention credit. I'm not going to go into all of these, but if you do take one of these credits, just know that there might be some interaction between the two of them. And then same thing with this slide. So this is exclusive to the American Rescue Plan. So employers can't claim the credit for wages that were used in payroll costs for determining certain grants. So that would include the Shuttered Venue Operator Grant, Restaurant and Revitalization Grants, and PPP loans. Okay, so this slide just shows you some links to some additional information where you can find it on irs.gov. We do have quite a few frequently asked questions on the employee retention credit. This has a link to the Form 7200 and then various other articles and news releases and things like that about the employee retention credit. So I encourage you to take a look at that information, as well as, if you think you might qualify for this, talk to your accountant, talk to your CPA, whoever does your tax prep, talk to them about how you can interact with this as well. I know there's a lot to this and it's very confusing, especially since it changed so much. So, nobody's expected to be an expert on all of this stuff. All right, so now I want to talk a little bit about the paid sick and family leave and the credit that would that employers can take if they provide paid leave in these situations. So one of the newer provisions actually allow you to take the credit for paid leave provided to employees to receive or recover from a COVID-19 vaccination. So these would be eligible for employers that pay sick and family leave from April 1st of 2021 through September 30th of 2021 as well. So that was just added under the American Rescue Plan to the regular family leave, paid sick and family leave credit. So this paid sick and family leave, there were some updates to the frequently asked questions that cover how the COVID-related Tax Relief Act of 2020 extended the availability of these tax credits. And these were originally introduced under the Family First Coronavirus Relief Act. And so this is for eligible employers for paid sick and family leave that was provided through March 31st of 2021. And then there were some other amendments to the credits. So these were previously only available until the end of 2020 under the CARES Act, and then they were extended through March 31st of 2021 by the Relief Act. Then the American Rescue Plan Act came along and it extended the tax credits to the period beginning April 1st of 2021 and ending on September 31st of 2021. So, you know, this credit is basically allowed to, or designed to allow qualified businesses, which would be those with fewer than 500 employees and who pay qualified sick leave wages, to get a credit for wages or compensation paid to an employee who is unable to work because of coronavirus quarantine or a self-quarantine, or maybe they have coronavirus symptoms and they're seeking a medical diagnosis. So in these cases, an eligible employer can claim a credit for paid sick leave that was provided to an employee. So the sick leave would be up to 2 weeks, which would be up to 80 hours, and it would be at the employee's regular rate of pay. So the credit's equal to their regular rate of pay, but the maximum is $511 per day. So for that 2-week period, the credit could amount to $5,110 in total for that employee. Now, there's also some other parts of that. So an eligible employer can receive the paid sick leave credit for those employees who might be unable to work because they're caring for someone who has coronavirus, or maybe they're caring for a child because the child's school or place of care is closed. So in this case, the eligible employers can claim a credit for paid sick and family leave provided to an employee for up to 2 weeks, again, 80 hours. But this time the credit is at 2/3 of the employee's regular rate of pay. So that would be the maximum of $200 per day and $2,000 in total. And then finally, so for those employees who might have had to stay home to care for a child long term, whose school or daycare might have been closed, the employers are also entitled to a paid family leave credit for leave provided to an employee. And this would be equal to 2/3 of the employee's regular pay, just like the previous one I mentioned, up to $200 per day. But this is for up to 10 weeks, so they can actually get up to $10,000 in qualifying leave counted towards the family leave credit. So this credit again would be applied against certain employment taxes on wages that were paid to all of their employees. And again, so just like the employee retention credit, you're going to claim the credit on the federal employment tax return, which is generally the Form 941. But again, you could benefit more quickly from the credits by reducing the federal employment tax deposits. If those deposits are not sufficient to cover the amount of the credit, then you could request an advance payment by using that Form 7200 that we talked about before. Okay, so there are a lot of different frequently asked questions and different tools to help you kind of wade through that paid sick and family leave credit information too. So again, I encourage you to take a look at irs.gov and get some additional information on that. One thing that I wanted to mention that doesn't necessarily fall under the CARES Act, but if you're looking to hire employees right now, you might want to look into the work opportunity tax credit and what's involved with that. This is actually a federal tax credit that's available to employers for hiring individuals from certain targeted groups who have faced some significant barriers to employment. So you would normally claim this credit on a Form 5884, and it's generally based on wages paid to eligible workers during the first 2 years of employment. So, this is kind of the gift that'll keep on giving for a little while. We do have additional information on irs.gov/WOTC. Just to give you an idea of some of the targeted groups might include qualified veterans, ex-felons, summer youth employees, people who are on long-term family assistance or even long-term unemployment. So, take a look at what the qualifications are for that kind of thing as well. And then, as I mentioned, I did want to talk a little bit about the child tax credit and the changes to that. This is going to help many families get advanced payments of the child tax credit, and those payments did start going out on July 15th. There's a couple of different nuances with this credit. We are trying to reach people who may not know that they're eligible for it, because you do not need to have earned income, or you might not earn enough money to be required to file a return. And in these situations, these folks are going to have to take some additional steps in order to qualify for the advanced payments. So we want people to understand that as well. There might be people that want to opt out of these payments. You might, your circumstances might have changed where you don't necessarily qualify and you're automatically receiving these payments. You can go in and opt out of the payments. Or maybe you just want to wait and get that big paycheck or refund when you file your taxes in 2022 as well. So there's a lot of different things you can do. We've got several different portals on irs.gov. You can go in and update your information. In the fall, we're going to allow people to go into the portal and update things like a change in marital status, or a change in the dependents, or something along those lines. So take a look at all the information that is available on irs.gov/child tax credit 2021. We do have a bunch of frequently asked questions there because there are so many different scenarios. So if you do have specific questions, you can take a look at that. For those people who don't normally file a return, that aren't required to file a return, we do have what's called the non-filer tool on there that people can actually go in and sign up for those child tax credit payments. There's also an eligibility tool there. And then, of course, the child tax credit update portal is where you can go in. And I think right now you can even go in and update your bank account information if it's not current as well. And then finally, in relation to this topic, I do want to just make sure people understand that you really need to be on the lookout for scams right now related to both this advanced child tax credit and then also the economic impact payments, because those scams really kind of ramped up in the last couple of years. So keep in mind that really the only way to get either of those benefits would be to either file a tax return with the IRS or register online through our non-filer sign-up tool. And that is only available on irs.gov. So, you're not going to be paying somebody to do this, or you're not going to be giving somebody else the information needed to sign up for this. Any other option is a scam. So you want to watch out for any scam emails, phone calls, texts related to these payments. So you just have to be really careful, really cautious. The IRS does not send unsolicited communications. We don't ask people to open attachments or visit, click on this link to visit this website, input your personal information, anything like that. So, keep that in mind, even in things beyond just these credits as well and these payments. So that's just my little commercial warning for you. Okay, so this slide basically just shows you our tax information for business page, and you can get there by going to irs.gov/businesses, and we've got a wealth of information here from preparing your taxes, filing your taxes, running your business, different business types. We've got a tax center for self-employed, small businesses. So if you have not visited our page, please, I encourage you to do so, to kind of look around and get yourself familiar with what's there. We've got an IRS video portal with some, workshops for small businesses and some webinars that are posted there as well. So please take a look at that. I do want to give a shout out. Robert talked about their small business checklist, and that is such a comprehensive tool for small businesses to use to find out where they can get some additional information. I know that they do have the IRS information there as well. So I just wanted to give a shout out for that tool. And then this page, I just wanted to give you an idea. This is the irs.gov homepage, and you can see the different things that you can do here. We've got some buttons on there where you can go right to the questions and answers about the advanced child tax credit, the coronavirus tax relief information that includes, this is where you can go to get to the employee retention credit or the employer tax credit section. Some of the things that I talked to you about today, this is where you can locate some of the additional information. So again, if you've not been to irs.gov recently or you're not familiar with it, I encourage you to do so. All right, so I think this is time for questions and answers. I do want to point out my email address is shown on this slide and also on the opening slide. And if there's a question that I might not be able to answer for you, or if you think of something later on, you can always email me that question and I can get you the answer. So with that, I am going to, how do we want to handle this, Robert or Faith?
Stop sharing for a moment. I want to share a slide before we jump into the Q&A.
Okay.
We have a few questions. It looks like we have about 12 questions. At this point, that's probably what we'll be able to get to. We may get a few more, but I want to share my screen real quick because I just saw that the SBA updated their PPP loan forgiveness website. So this is their website, and if you scroll down, and it talks about how to apply for loan forgiveness. It has information on the portal, and it actually has a link to the new portal that will open on after August 4th. But when you click on that, this is the page you get. What I wanted to show everybody was right here under the resources is a PPP direct forgiveness platform users guide. You can click on that and get a lot of great information in that PDF document. 29 pages worth of information. So I just wanted to share that with everybody real quick, and how to get there so they can do that. So with that, let's jump into the questions. We have two questions that kind of tie together, one from Sandy and one from Carrie Ann. And basically, I'm going to read Carrie Ann's, and Sandy's is very similar. It says, we have clients who filed amended 941s for January 2020 and January 2021. They have not heard anything from the IRS and received the requested refunds. Any idea of how much longer it'll take the IRS to get caught up on the tax returns, as well as when might people expect payments of the ERC funds for 2020?
So to be honest with you, that is the question of the hour. We hear this a lot, and we do have a link on irs.gov where you can kind of see where we are on different things. Part of the problem right now, I think, is that you know, a lot of things look like they're going back to normal and we're kind of past all this COVID stuff, but we are still operating under our evacuation order. So we don't have fully staffed employees at our processing centers and that kind of stuff. So we are working through, especially the paper processing as quickly as we can. As you can imagine, we had millions and millions and millions of things that we had to go through when people started coming back into the offices. But again, we still only have partial staffing in our offices. So with that being said, I know I'm not going to be able to give you a definitive answer on that, but they do post updates occasionally as to where they are on processing the paper returns and, you know, how many millions are left and that kind of thing. So, you know, you just got to hang in there and be patient as we work through this, because we really are doing the best that we can at this point, trying to process that. So I know it's not the answer that y'all wanted, but that's all I can give you right now. So keep an eye on that. If you go into the irs.gov and go to the Get Coronavirus Tax Relief, you'll be able to find the mission critical information on that page.
Excellent. Thank you for that response. We have another question is, are there credits, loans, programs for using subcontractors or only for actual W-2 employees?
Yeah, so these would only be for W-2 employees and wouldn't be for the subcontractors. And I'm not aware of anything that would be available.
Yeah, I'm not either. And because those subcontractors, those 1099 employees for all these same programs can apply as the business owner, because as an independent contractor, they're a small business owner too.
Right.
Next question is, what if our payroll tax returns have already been filed? Can we amend them or otherwise go back to previous filed quarters?
Yes, you can amend them.
Excellent. It says, you said these programs are not available to self-employed. You mean self-employed employers cannot claim this for their employees, or you cannot claim for hiring self-employed?
You can't claim it for yourself as a self-employed employer, but if you've got employees, you can certainly claim it for them.
And so to clarify on that, if you're say an S Corp and you're working, you're actually an employee of that S Corp. So you would be able to apply it for your corresponding wages, correct?
That is an open question right now that's being brought to the attention of higher IRS people. And so I really can't comment on that at this point. But if you are a self-employed individual filing a Schedule C, you can't take the credit for yourself.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for the clarification. All right, let's see. It says, if paid sick and family leave payment, if the paid sick and family leave payments made to qualifying employees, considering the credit, are the employer's expenses for the amount paid to the employee still deductible?
If the paid sick and family leave payments made to qualifying employees consider, I'm not real clear on what he's asking.
Yeah, Paul, I'm not sure what the other expenses you're referring to would be, so maybe you can drop that in the Q&A real quick. Let's say, how are they able to receive this child tax credit if they do not file?
If you're asking how they go about it, you would use the non-filer tool on the irs.gov website. And what you do is you just, you know, put in your information in there and who your qualifying child would be. And then, you know, the IRS will take a look at it and consider whether it qualifies, and then they would begin to make the payment.
And then that participant just mentioned in there that the clients have said the non-filer tool is no longer available.
The non-filer tool, that was available for the employee, or I'm sorry, the economic impact payments previously. Then they took that down for that, and the non-filer tool is now available for the advanced child tax credit. That's probably what they're referring to.
Let's see, got a few more questions we can get to. It says, I claimed the ERC for Q2 of 2021 and requested a refund directly on Form 941. I have not yet received the refund. Do I need to file Form 7200 for the credit to be released to me?
So no, the answer to that is no. That will probably delay things even more so if you do that. So as you heard in the earlier questions, you know, there is a delay in processing, and you just need to be patient, unfortunately.
All right, and then we have, where are the IRS workshops and webinars for small businesses? I didn't see the link on the screenshot of the page you had up. Is there a link?
So if you just go in and use the search tool on irs.gov and just type in, you know, small business workshops, you can actually go to the IRS video portal at irsvideos.gov, I think it is. But you could also do a search for video portal on irs.gov. You know, just use that search box for things that you're looking for as well.
I'm going to post in the chat the link for that. I just pulled it up.
Oh, thank you.
So in the chat box, you will find the link for the workshops at the IRS. Their small business tax workshops, meetings, and seminars page.
To be honest with you, though, there aren't very many of them. The live workshops right now, there's nothing on a kind of a local level. So you probably want to go to the IRS video portal and find the virtual workshop there.
All right, we had another question, and this will be our final question. We're going to wrap up with this. It's asked if we can get a recorded copy of this webinar. Yes, this webinar is being recorded. It will be on the Small Business Bootcamp website, most likely later today, along with, we will share Lisa's slide deck. So it'll also have the links to those that she shared, along with her email address available. So you can find that later today. With that, we are going to go ahead and wrap up today's bootcamp session. And we appreciate everybody being on here. We will have some future financial ones. We're going to definitely have a special session within the next couple of weeks on the PPP forgiveness portal. I'm working on that with some of our partners that are going to deal with it and have a great presentation for you. So I'll be looking forward to some emails with that special session. But until then, we wish everybody to have a great rest of their day today. Have a great weekend, and we hope to see you with us on Tuesday for our next session. Thanks, and we'll see you soon. Thanks, Lisa.
All right, thank you, Robert. Hey, do you guys have my slide deck?
No, we need it.
Okay, I'll email it to you as soon as we get done.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.